before the weaning is going to work. She's got to work on other things, and we're going to give Spaulding a chance. And the insurance company reluctantly went for it, but Spaulding was on the side of the patient, and it was just great. In September, I did more plans for me and for Bono, and I decided that I needed to set up not a profit-making corporation, which I've done 15 of, but to set up a foundation, where the foundation would do the, which I call the Whole Brain Foundation, and it would do start up proof of concept projects on me, on Bono, on Ron Fleming, my kidney guy, but use that to document the other side of the hospital perspective. This is a patient-centered group, but it's not centered on the patient looking back at the hospital as much as it is people here who are looking at the patients and saying, what does the patient want? And what I discovered as I gave a presentation at the Kennedy School in October, applying this method to fixing democracy, and I brought some ballots for you to see, and going to the Spaulding Hackathon. I'm wearing the Spaulding Hackathon. Was down at MIT, and I've begun to be old friends with David Stordo and others. And then at the end of October, I got a special deal from Jovis Kvedar for $295 for $1,100 cut rate rock bottom price. And I met the Eric Dishman that I had stimulated me, and we had a good conversation. I met Kvedar, I met Dr. David Stordo, and I came out of that conference with 1,200 people seeing that the role of technology and innovation was going to be colossal for changes in healthcare that are going to affect everybody in every way, and they're coming down the pike. And yet, as Dr. Kvedar said, nobody has figured out the whole package. Well, I believe that I'm in a unique position with my understanding of brain, mind, and behavior, of psychology, education, technology, entrepreneurship, 50 years doing pharmaceutical sales training globally on every major pharmaceutical product. And I now believe that the perspective that I have with the Atkinson protocol and the research that I'm planning to do, stimulated by this Patient, Family, and Advisory Council, has been very powerful. I got back from Atlanta, you'll be pleased to know, this last weekend, and I got the first donation at that conference. I went around with my iPhone and the gizmo I got from a Bank of America called Clover Go, and I collected $27 from a woman who worked for Elsevier Publishing, and Elsevier will match it for another $27. But today I got a check for $1,250 from Malcolm Peabody and his wife. He was the guy who set up all the charter schools in Washington, D.C. from 0 to almost 50% now, and changed the law to make it possible because they were illegal. You can't just change a little thing. So now I'm focusing on taking 6 Clements Circle and the Whole Brain Foundation and making it a research and development effort that can be expanded to take the results of that. And I see many companies being organized in many different fields. Not that going on 80 on December 12th, I will be able to run, but I know people, and I see visions, and I see a much brighter future for a lot of people than they might otherwise have. And that's my story, and I'd love to hear from you.
Great. So Charlie, I'll have to read this. I just quickly looked at it.
Well, I wanted to give you an overview today.
Yeah.
And maybe another time we could talk about, but it's basically saying that the methodology that people use in their lives to tell their story, to tell their status, to tell the stages for their future plans,
yeah,
can be thought of in a 5-part: a plan, a goal, a strategy, a structure, and execution implementation. And each of those 5 steps can be broken out into like the goals in terms of your passion, your roles and responsibilities, your philosophy and values, your purpose and mission.
Yeah.
And also the strategies can be looked at in terms of problems and dilemmas, hopes and dreams, ideas and solutions, and success and failure evaluation. All these buzzwords are floating around and they're used in everybody's strategic plan, but there's no organizing principle that puts them all on the same common denominator. The big idea is that the randomized clinical trial that looks mainly at a product, a device, a pill, and sees how 1,000 people over here who are very much like 1,000 people over here in a randomized clinical trial can make some minor improvement, which is statistically proven beyond anybody's doubt. Instead of doing that, have the Atkinson protocol on one individual at a time and look at all of the problems that the patient has from cradle to grave, from the ICU to the rehabilitation to the community services to home, and how do they navigate that. And I've identified, using the same whole brain model, the different dimensions of personal health care, from their internal breathing and beating to the external appearance, to their speaking and swallowing, to their nutrition, to their sleeping and resting and sunning, to their exercising, and then their mental health, their work, their play, and where they are doing it, and the time they're spending and how much it costs. That the patient can look at that from their own and the family and take more responsibility for their half of the bargain and not just think, I'm here, fix me.
Right. Now, what are these for, Charlie?
I used the same approach with the Kennedy School. The Kennedy School had a contest to fix democracy. And I said the same planning process that people could learn to, as citizens, learn their own thinking preference, their style, their behavioral style, their cognitive style, their using this model. They could look at their hero, see the people that they really admire in life, and how do they see the style of that person.
Yeah.
And then a candidate they might know about, so that they could get the styles of the candidate. And then if you turn to the second page there, that one that has, with a clock metaphor around the whole brain model, I mapped out the dimensions of democracy that the candidates could be judged on. What is their view on innovation, on globalization, on entrepreneurship, on education, on healthcare, on welfare, on infrastructure, on defense, on governance, on economics and labor, on science and technology, and on leadership. And then using those to identify their priorities for policy preferences, then orchestrate a talk, and then let the people collect all their thoughts about the candidates they want and turn it around so that the campaign billions, quote, as free speech, that the individual citizen can use it to vote for the candidates, to set up a job requirement that the candidates have to apply to. So that was the idea, but it's the same idea, has many applications. My idea is, because I got the opportunity and I cared about it a lot, to focus on one patient, me and Banu and Ron and a few others, and get the R&D together so that they're usable tools that break glass and open it up and use it right away without taking a year-long course. So that's the deal.
Good. Wow. Very interesting, Charlie.
Carol, do you have any thought?
I do. As I was telling Joanne before everybody arrived, I've gotten involved with the National Brain Tumor Society on a major level, and not only participating in their events and so forth and speaking at some of their to some of their biggest sponsors, telling my survivor story. They schlep me around, and I get up and talk about how I survived with a little bit of humor, if it's possible. And I'm also going to be working with them on a school initiative, which we are starting here in the New England chapter. Being a retired teacher, they thought I was the ideal candidate to get this one up and running. And they're constantly innovating, and they're constantly adapting to the needs of the survivors, because I am a brain tumor survivor. And this is what first intrigued me about going to work for them, because I looked them up and I did a lot of research before I picked the second organization that I'm involved in. This Spalding was my first, because I know they enabled me to walk out of here. And I'm alive because of Spalding, emotionally, physically. And the reason I chose the National Brain Tumor Society was because, number one, 82.3 cents of every dollar gets back into research, which is an enormously high percentage. I think that we're all mired in the old ways of doing things, and being, as I've said many times, without family and single, and it fell on my friends' shoulders to pick up the slack, and they did an amazing job. I am living proof of that. And it sounds to me like it needs to be more action-oriented in a faster mode, or as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And this is what intrigues me about your approach to things, that you can't just sit on it and do clinical trials and surveys and wait, because every day people are dying from not just brain tumors, but every illness under the, every illness that exists, whether it's West Nile or a brain tumor. The two of us are here today
or
as
obesity,
survivors.
or diabetes,
exactly.
Or all these
and
chronically, critically ill diseases of civilization.
Exactly. And this is why the National Brain Tumor Society has decided to start a campaign on the junior high, the elementary school level, and we're going to take it to the high school level, and then we're going to open it up nationally once we've refined it within the next year, to get kids more aware of lifestyle issues. And it's not all related to socioeconomic issues, but it's more lifestyle, and it's increasing
and
awareness.
These lifestyles cut across all classes.
Exactly. And awareness of these issues from somebody who can relate to them on a one-to-one basis works best. We're all interested in the results of the clinical trials and the new statistical stuff, and facts and figures are all good, but it's that human contact.
And Carol, I like what you say. I think that the people who've fallen off the roof, who have survived cancer, who've survived West Nile, who've survived all these things, then get a perspective. And at one level, they're the disabled, but at another level, they were disabled previously. Now we're enabled. Now we have an opportunity, and I think with the right training, and I call them PACER care people, planner, advocate, coach, educator, researcher. A PACER care person can become a new job description for graduates of Spalding Hospital, and put the people who are going out of work and be putting out, instead of putting them out to pasture, get them enabled with whatever expertise they have with their, to be able to help others. And I think that they
on a one-to-one basis. That's
but
what
they
it
need
is.
the tools and they need the training, and it becomes more of an education thing than a medical thing.
I agree.
All right.
Okay, you can shut that off now
Yeah.
if you'd like, because we're gonna